Hey, welcome to another episode of Dr. Potato's Beginner Guitar Theory. Here once again at the Living Room Austin with the founder and creator of the Living Room Austin, Sean, who's been here with me the last two videos. Here my third. So yeah, some pretty cool things going on at the Living Room Austin. I'm in the Living Room Austin right now, actually, but doing a lot of other things with the group. So, check out the community on Facebook, the Living Room Austin. So, last two episodes, we have focused on different methods by which to begin to learn the notes of the fretboard. Okay, and I showed you, those lessons particularly focused on intervals. All right, particularly the intervals that I talked about, several times in different ways. Using the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So those are the same numbers that we have in the major scale. Okay, so there are a lot of different types of scales and things called modes in music theory, Western music theory. And could probably say, I'm no music, historian, but you could probably say that the major scale has been the most influential scale on virtually all of the development of Western music. Okay, from the classical times up to what you hear on the radio today. All right, and follows the same rules. Breaking them, of course, at some times, but those times they break the rules are founded on this, you could say, this law, okay, the law of the major scale. So these numbers that I've been using in the past two videos, 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth, those were being used to describe the relationships between two notes, okay, so just for example purposes. I have this note here, a G, and I have a D, and I know that's a fifth apart. So using, again, that number 5. Today I'm going to be using these numbers in a similar way, related way, but a little bit different way. So the major scale consists of 7 notes. Okay, and as we talked on the first episode, 1 and 8, they equal the same note. Okay, so the standard Western scale consists of notes that then those notes are, say, symbolized or can be referred to as numbers. And so these numbers are what I'll be using this common term, scale degree. Okay. So that is, what degree is X note on, say, scale Y, okay? So, again, there's going to be 7 distinct notes. So, what this lesson is primarily going to be about is, learning that scale, learning the relationship between each note in sequence, and we'll talk about that. But then I'm going to show you some ways, to play that scale on your guitar. Okay, so we talked about it. I think the first episode. Yeah, I think it was the first episode. We talked a little bit about the major scale, and I discussed this idea of different steps separating one note from another, and those different types of steps are called the whole step or a half step. So, just for purposes of review, a whole step means you are skipping 1 fret between your 2 notes. So there's going to be a blank spot there. A half step is just 1 fret up. Okay? So the way the Western scale is organized is by these 7 notes, all right? According to these rules. It's a whole step that separates 1 and 2. And I'll show an example of this on the fretboard here in a minute. From 2 to 3 is another whole step. 3 to 4 now is a half step, and you can see going on. So, if you're just beginning to learn this kind of stuff, this is something you're going to want to know. All right? So say it to yourself. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, until you get it, okay? And again, that's going to help you considerably in the future navigating the fretboard. So if we look at C, all right, the C major scale, okay? So C is my 1, okay? So fifth string, 3rd fret, that's C, okay? I go up a whole step, that's 2, that's what? D, all right? E, that's the 3, so again, a whole step. Then we go to the next note, F, which we're at this point now, okay? E, F is a half step. Now what do I have? I have another whole step. Now what do I have again? I'm on the, I move to the, say, 6th. Then I move to another whole step, and I'm to B. And now what do I have? A half step. Right back up to C. So, there's going to be a scale for every single letter note there is. C, C sharp, D, so on and so forth. Okay? So if you know these steps, you're going to, theoretically at least, be able to play in any key, any scale, okay? Whether that's G, G sharp, A, so on and so forth. So what is happening when you move, say I have the C, which we just looked at, okay? Those are the white keys of the piano. So that would be the key of C. Let's say we had the key of D, okay? So we're starting on a different 1. And because of the, half steps that are in there, each time you move to a different key, you're going to have different notes in different orders, okay? So, for example, just comparing the D to the C. Okay, so again, for C, the 1 is C. For D, the 1 is D. So on and so forth, all right? You can see for yourself. What's different, though, is if you note these two notes, okay? The F sharp and the C sharp. So that means, say again in reference to the piano, the D major scale includes 2 black notes, okay? Whereas key of C has none, okay? And in a future video, we'll learn about what's called the circle of fifths, where the ideas here are kind of expanded outward, that can sometimes be kind of confusing. So this means they're following the same rules, whole step, half step, so on and so forth, but because they start on different notes, they're going to include different notes, okay? So, not only is that going to be important when you're playing your scales, but as we'll see probably next time around, it also relates to the building of chords, okay? So, just one thing to kind of add to that, 2 terms that are also important to know. We have what's called diatonic and chromatic. And these terms can be applied really to chords or to notes, okay? But since we're talking about notes, we'll just use that terminology because you can just translate the same idea to chords, is that the notes that are properly in the scale, okay, those are all said to be diatonic, okay? So C is diatonic to the key of C, all right? But if we look here, C is not in the D scale, okay? So it's not a diatonic note. If we were to, say, play the D scale, but we wanted to add the C, B, C, C sharp, 1, 2, 3, that C is called chromatic, right? Because it's just, following the previous note chromatically, B to C, or, and is followed by another chromatic note, C to C sharp. So, in essence, those are the notes that when you're doing your scales, that you're skipping over, okay? So those are the chromatic notes. And again, diatonic notes are the ones that are properly in the key. And so how to know that, know which notes get sharped and whatnot, and which ones don't, that's going to be another important thing we talk about when we get to the ever mysterious, yet ever magical cycle or circle of fifths. So try to remember not to put my strap on, yeah. So this time I remembered to take it off. That sounds kind of weird. So, so what I'm going to show you now is the C scale on the guitar. And so if we're going to learn one pattern right now, and maybe next time around we'll learn another pattern. But this is the pattern, this is the scale that I learned how to, that I learned when I first began taking guitar lessons, like when I was 12, because Poison was awesome. So we're just going to start with that scale, okay? So C, third string, fifth string, third fret. Okay. Now we're going to go down to an open D string, so the fourth string. Now I go up my third. Where's my third? Well, if this is my 2, if the open is my 2, I know that there is a whole step. Okay? So I know that. So now I'm on my 3, and look, just like the intervals that we talked about, C and E are the interval of a third. There's that shape. Okay? So 3, what's the distance between the third and fourth degrees? Half step, right? Okay. Now for this pattern, so that's an F. Now for this pattern, we're just sticking with the first 3 frets. Okay, so I suggest using your ring finger for the third fret, middle finger for the second fret, and first finger for the first fret. So C, 1, D, 2, E, 3, half step, 4, F. Now again, sticking within these first 3 frets. Open third string, that's G. So now I'm on 5. Okay, so now what do? I whole step, skip up. Okay, now there's A. So I have, okay, 1 more note to go, 2 really. Again, sticking within these frets. B is the open second string. And what do I know? What's the distance between B and C? Half step, right? So open first fret, second string. So I'm back to that's my 8, or again my 1. I'm an octave higher. So again, kind of all together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those are my notes. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So that covers strings 5 through 2. Then what you can do is third fret, second string, that's D. Okay, so I'm back to my 2. Open is E, that's my 3. First string, first fret, F, my 4. Up to my 5, the G. Okay, so for this week, get that down and practice this one shape for now. The 4 shapes will come next episode. But if you can, try to do what we've been working on earlier. Okay, try to identify the intervals between different notes. Okay, we already know, like this shape, third fret, 5th and 4th strings, that shape, that's the 4th, right? This is the 3rd. Go down 2 steps, go down a whole step, and you have D, that's the 2, okay? But see if you can find then what is the relationship between D and G. It's a 4th. try to find the different intervals between different notes. So I have this shape again. 3rd string, 4th fret. 3rd fret, 4th string. You get backwards here sometimes. And 3rd fret, 2nd fret, 3rd string. That's A. So those also exist in a 3rd relationship. A is the 3rd of F. So again, work on this pattern. Continue it up here if you want. But get that ingrained in your fingers. And the next time we come around, that's one shape, okay? The next time we come around, it's going to kind of be more of a show you how kind of thing than so much, the theory stuff. But we'll learn the other 4 shapes. If you, need a visual, you can find them anywhere online, really. But, if you go, you can also go to my Facebook page where I'll have, diagrams of this one shape. And it has the diagrams for 4 other shapes. So if you want to, cheat and go ahead a little further, whatever, it'll be there for you. And again, so work on at least this one first shape, and then try to again think about what's the relationship between the different notes. Okay. So as always, thanks for watching. Keep on learning. Keep on rocking.